first of all, welcome to the stream to what I call just game dev chat with Anka because title's still pending. But yeah, we're here with Ron, who is a friend of mine from Canada, who's the director of Sterox Studios, and I'm gonna kind of ask you some introductory questions, and then we're gonna get more into like your game Button Man, its progress, the next plans that you got there. But first off, just like let me hit you with a question that is like, I don't know how often you get the question, but does Styrax mean something?
So Styrax technically is a plant, the flower plant. It goes down of this, but it wasn't named because of it. It was just a name that was thrown around, and I just got very attached to, and it just stayed that way. Basically, we couldn't find anything else that sounded as good as Styrax for myself at least.
So, but it doesn't have anything related to the actual plant in the end. Or is it in the logo
No,
in
not
any
really.
way?
It is not. It is not. We like the plant. It has different names and stuff, but it's mostly the sound. It's mostly how much I like the sound of the name, and yeah, that's why we chose it.
We were kind of like also spending quite a lot of time thinking, well, how are we going to name ourselves? What is something that we're kind of like identifying with? And then we just ended up looking at like some physics concepts and just finding something that is basically kind of like indicating instability. And
See, I never liked physics, so I couldn't go there.
I mean, I don't think I like physics particularly either, but physics is cool, everybody thinks physics is cool, so if you can stuff from there. Right, so you're based in Halifax, if I understand correctly. That's not where all your studio is, though. Like as I remember, you're pretty remote as well.
I'm pretty spread out. In Halifax, it's mostly 3 people, and there's one more in the province above us in New Brunswick. But the rest are kind of spread out. We have one in Turkey. We have one in Brazil. We had an intern helping from Germany as well, from Cologne. And yeah, from time to time, we have people from all around. We even had someone helping from Russia. We had someone helping from Vietnam. We had someone helping from different places at different times.
I mean, that sounds like a time zone hell, but you make it work, I guess.
I think when people have their clear work objectives and when they know what is supposed to be done with the rest of the day, there's no real need to check up on them, and they can just work within their time zone. And as long as the results are there, I'm not trying to force them into a 10 a.m. meeting with the rest of us in similar time zones and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense, but that does require that you give very clear, predefined work, which, yeah, if you can manage that, that's admirable. Requires a
We
lot of
found that it
structure.
works.
Yeah. So maybe we can actually talk about. Actually, I suppose I do have another question about the studio because I think Buttonman is not what you're working on full time, right? Like you have work for hire as well, or other projects.
We started as a work for hire before that dried out, and then we started working on Buttonman full time basically for the last 2.5-3 years. With some work for hire in the middle, but for the most part, we are the Buttonman studio right now. We actually have our own projects going on as well that are Buttonman related, that are not video games. Yeah, I can talk about that a bit later. But yeah, Buttonman is the flagship, let's say, of the studio. And work for hire is always kind of an option, but it kind of needs to come and it needs to suit us and not distract us from making the game as well much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Um, I'm curious though what's coming up with because you're hinting that there's like maybe I don't know if it's gonna be like comic books or tabletop stuff or something like that, but that sounds interesting. Yeah, and I guess like it's good that you actually are committing to or like focusing on one thing or like one IP. How long has the studio been actually like operating like before you even started on Button Man?
So we opened in 2021 in February. So we had a anniversary not too long ago. So 5 years we've
Oh
been
shit.
operating.
Happy anniversary.
Cool. Yeah, we're quite old studio now. But yeah, so we've been operating 5 years. 2 of those years were mostly work for hire. We made match three games. We did a TikTok game where you needed to prevent a comet from crashing into a planet and destroying it. Had a lot of interesting art, but we had to delete most of that out because it was too intensive for TikTok.
Wait, what
Uh,
is a TikTok game? Wait. There are
it
games on
is
TikTok?
what it sounds. So they came up with the mechanic that if you watch someone playing a game, you can click on the link to open the game in TikTok. And it was an interesting experiment. I don't know if they're continuing it. I know it was one of the first attempts to kind of make a game work that's actually a game, not just one of those ads you see on, online. But yeah, so we made that, and we made the match three and a few other things in between. But that was a work for hire phase of things. And then the world got a bit worse. It got stagnated, and the layoffs started to begin in the big companies, and so it became this thing of what do we do now? And I always wanted to make a game of our own. I always worked on one or another, and we kind of decided to give a few of them a go. We tried different games as well, with Battleman being kind of the first one we started developing, and then we had a whole game that we kind of tried to make work and different things. In the end, Battleman won out, especially because of the style, because of the 2D, which was easier for us than 3D. Uh, and yeah, it just kind of worked out in this way, and we kept on going with it till today.
I'm also curious what you tried in between. There was a full other game concept that you had, kind of prototyping, and in the end you
At
decided
any
against
point,
it.
I have 10 games that I want to make at any moment.
Jesus.
But we started making a whole game called Duma, which was you're this servant in a manor, and during the day you need to kind of clean, you need to serve, you need to organize everything and not appear suspicious. And during the night you need to sneak around the house and solve puzzles or being hunted by the lords of the manor turned monsters, basically. And you kind of
Holy
learn their
shit.
patterns, and you can interact with them during the day and kind of set stuff up in the day for the night, try not to be caught, stuff like that.
I just would
It didn't
wonder
really
why
work out.
don't you leave if the owners of the manor become monsters at night? You could just like quit. No, I
Well,
think too
that's kind of in the
simplistically.
1800.
I
It's kind of in the
know.
1800s, so you're kind of stuck there,
Yeah, okay.
forced to work.
Yeah, I see. It's like fiefdoms that you're kind of bound
Yeah,
to work for one lord or another. Yeah.
yes,
But that sounds pretty fun though. But it
it
didn't stick.
was. It was too insensitive on us, and we were kind of cutting ourselves short from Button Man and this. And in the end, we decided that Button Man is getting more attention and was getting along better than the 3D intensive horror game that didn't catch the style so much and needed a lot more work. Maybe in the future, but it didn't work right now.
Yeah, I mean you can always shelf it for a while and then in the future maybe it's better timing to pick it up again. I mean, obviously it depends on the team, but sometimes I feel like, yeah, 3D games would be much more complicated to make. So I go for 2D, and then I realize also 2D games have their own trappings, because then you have to, depending on what kind of art style you go for, it can be just as difficult or more. I think that's
Yeah,
the trap we kind of fell in with my studio. We kind of wanted to do this kind of hand-drawn, more detailed artwork for a bunch of things, and that's where it's like we should have just done some 3D kind of like this PS2 graphics. um yeah, Francie is in chat. She works for the graphics for Deep Fog Signals currently too, and that's, I think she knows what I'm talking about, that there's like a whole bunch of like graphics that are just there for one specific thing. We also didn't really make them very modular or anything. So
yeah.
yeah, the work grows and grows.
Yeah, we're
Um,
kind of in the same boat for a long time because all of the assets in Batman are handmade, basically, and drawn, and all in that comic style, so it can't be, too standardized. But we found our rhythm, and honestly, the art is so further along than anything else in the game that we have so many animations we can't use because things are not set up yet. So we found our groove, and honestly, our artists have done an amazing job just, you know, finding the time and a way to make it faster than, then it should have been a lot slower than it was. And honestly, I'm very proud of them for the work they've done.
no, that's really cool. Because yeah, I think for Button Man, the art's work does a lot of heavy lifting because it's very like identifiable, in my opinion. I don't think I've seen a game that looks like that, even though like you would think, yeah, games that have kind of like a comic book style, but still I've not really seen any similar to this particular style myself somehow. Um
There's a few comic style adjacent games at least, and there's some old ones that let you like jump from comic panel to comic panel. And caused me quite a fright because they copyrighted that ability for a while, but it should be dead now. But there's a few comic book games, but they're not point and click for the most part, and they're not flat in a way. They're still 3D with the comic book aesthetics. Honestly, they're not really intersecting with what we want to tell with the story, and our specific Tintin is inspired style. So we have compatriots, but no competition, let's say, on this style alone.
did they actually have at some point the ability to go from comic panel to comic panel copyrighted? Who would copyright such a thing?
Yeah. I think it's comic game, Comic Zone.
Comic
Yeah,
Zone.
yeah, with an X, comics, and it's a game. It's an old game. Um, yeah, 1995,
Well, Ron, it sounds like
and
maybe you need to copyright something yourself now,
we
as
should
a
be
game
good because
mechanic. Yeah.
ours doesn't jump above the bars. It's kind of walking behind them. And if they push on us, we'll just say it's a film reel that you go behind, not a comic book.
Oh, I see.
So we're kind of protected.
Well, let's hope you don't even have to justify that ever. Um,
Yeah.
so you're saying there's like no direct like game that you're trying to kind of give a nod to when you work on Button Man? It's kind of
So there's a lot of games that I kind of give a nod to, but not specifically with the style. The style kind of gives a nod more to Tintin, more to Belgian comics of the time, Asterix, Obelisk,
right.
and some, a lot of the old comics that all the people on the team, roughly the same age, have read as a kids. Um, and but for the game, like I set out to make the next King's Quest. I'm a King's Quest devotee, and for me that was the most important aspect of the game. I remember playing as a kid, walking from panel to panel, going back and forth, trying to figure out the puzzles, and having this sort of open world to explore, but all in 2D, all in very strict dungeon style, but it still felt like it's a world that you can explore. And that was the first idea of Batman. Obviously, we're not point and click specifically now, but we still have that feeling of, you know, you go left, you find something, you go right, you find something, and you kind of need to figure out where to go in the city to advance the plot. And from there, there's also like a little bit of persona. What I got from there was kind of the social kind of aspect where you interact with people and you kind of build bonds uh, with them. Aside from the main like mystery and you fighting, you kind of having hangouts with people and you talk to them and you make choices. And there's also romance and there's reputation for the different areas of the city and for different factions of the place as well. And we discussed before, I discussed with you before, there's a mental health component as well that if you fight a lot, your mental health goes down. If you look for other solutions, your mental health goes up. Of course, there's a way to balance it so you can get best of both worlds as well. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of different games that we kind of look at. Disco Elysium, for example, as well. You know, getting that surrealistic kind of approach to some things like nightmares and PTSD. Uh, but yeah, there's quite a few games that are not specifically games that are comic book uh, and you play inside a comic book.
Yeah,
Aside
that,
from Comics Zone,
yeah, interesting. I mean, I was approaching that question too much from the art style perspective, but actually, it's really interesting to hear what you've kind of also grown up with or like looked into as
yeah,
inspirations. Do you have some kind of RPG stat based system in the back of this, kind of keeping track of these relationships then, or like at least the mental state of the character, or like the
yeah,
apparition of these nightmares or stuff like this? Is that dictated by
yeah,
something like?
yeah. Well, the nightmares are more linear, but the reputation and the mental health are tracked in the background, and we're looking into allowing you to see some stuff as well, like Fallout, where you see your reputation with place. It says, you know, oh, you're a paragon of virtue there, or you're becoming a villain there, stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna track those points, and that will affect the ending or how some people approach you, some options that will be open to you. Um, so you can't play one way and get all the options unlocked. You kind of need to decide in the playthrough. I'm gonna do well. You don't have to decide. You can go back and forth, but different options will be available depending on what you do. Some of the choices will be specific, like you help this person, he's available in the next chapter to be talked to, or you reach this reputation with this area or faction, so now you can say this to avoid a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So, or your reputation is so bad with that faction that there's no way you can't fight them right now. Or it unlocked another one, but what they fear you so much, so they're not gonna fight you. Stuff like that will be impacted by that reputation mechanic and also the mental health. If you have very low mental health, your character will just not want to solve things in different way. They're kind of just gonna go head first into it and fight. And you're kind of, I want to make you feel that you've made choices and your character reacts to those choices and there's gonna be a consequence. It's not gonna be. I'm not saying it's a bad playthrough. We're doing the evil playthrough by fighting, but it is will have more action heavy playthrough that you will encounter, and let's say an action heavy ending that you get, rather than something maybe more hopeful or maybe more neutral or depending also on the faction you choose to kind of take over the city by the end.
Hmm. So you don't equate how much the character ends up fighting with how kind of bad they're becoming.
So it's more jaded, I like to call it. So your character will become jaded. They're not strictly evil. They're not gonna kill people. They're not gonna hurt good people. But they don't see another solution but to fight. So for them, it's they need to fight to survive. They need to fight to protect always, and it's never gonna end. They're always gonna be a soldier like they were before the game started. So it's kind of more like it decides on the state of mind that your character will have, and that's the ending of Bruce Mackenzie, the main character. Uh, he will be this soldier in the bad ending, let's say, and he won't have this kind of hope of getting better. So
Hmm.
it is sort of a bad ending, but not an evil ending.
Yeah, it's more on like the sad kind of the sad side of he
Yeah,
didn't maybe do the best things for himself. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
They still can achieve a good ending in terms of the people you choose to support. Uh, but for Bruce himself, it might not be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And this is all on the backdrop of trying to find out who killed your boss. And
Yes.
and you do I'm guessing the choice that you'll have to make is also how you deal with the discovery.
Yeah, so there's multiple discoveries throughout the game. I won't spoil them, but
Yeah.
there's about who the boss is and who he will remain for you, because he has this kind of father figure appeal to the character, being the person he grew up with after uh, losing his own family for a reason that he doesn't really know about. And also, what happens when you discover who actually committed this murder conspiracy, and what do you do about it? Because it won't be as simple as you find the killer, you fight the killer, and
Sounds like difficult choices.
once I would love to talk about, but that's gonna spoil everything.
Yeah, that's what's tricky with the narrative heavy games, that you have to keep some things under the wraps.
Yeah.
Um so now what else do I want to ask you? I was curious about the arcade mode that's teased in the demo because it's
Hmm.
currently unavailable. Um,
Yes.
and I imagine that this is some kind of fighting mode, but I cannot imagine what it's going to be in the end. What kind of role does it serve within the game that you're making? Because again, it seems very strange to me to have a standalone arcade mode together with the
So
story-driven game.
the arcade mode is more of a fun kind of fighting arena. Basically, you get to choose the location you can fight, and then you're kind of gonna get overwhelmed by enemies, and you're gonna fight and see how long you can basically survive. It's more of a nod to kind of Final Fight, Streets of Rage, stuff like that, where you would go into a stage and you will fight until the next stage, or until you get defeated. So it's more of a nod to that. It's not really a part of the narrative, but it's a way to give people that beat 'em up game that they might be looking for if they want to take a break from the narrative. Because the fighting in the narrative, there will be many opportunities to fight, but you will have to look for them. You will have to sometimes make a specific decision to fight. Uh, so it won't be a beat 'em up game. So we decided to use the beat 'em up mechanics to create this kind of self-contained arena where you can just go ahead and practice your fighting, get better at it, or just enjoy it in general. And Yeah, that will be the arcade mode, and we're gonna see if there's traction to it. If you want to add more things to it, some customization to how it works, and some different rewards that you might be able to get. But for the most part, it's gonna be a fun kind of contained experience.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense that you would make some kind of like parallel mode that the people can take a break in. Like, it makes me think of stuff like Night in the Woods, which has also a rhythm game inside of it. Like when you go to the bedroom and you can choose to play your bass before going to bed. And then that's a
Yeah,
very fun mini game. Of course, that's still kind of incorporated inside the game rather than being outside, but it's still kind
yeah,
of cool that there is a kind of a different challenge altogether if you want to
yeah. I
take it.
remember some older games. Was they were more beat 'em up in general, but they was always have this kind of beat 'em up extension to it, basically. So you would have the main narrative, which we would go from stage to stage with a little breaks of cutscenes, static or otherwise, and then you would have the menu option to just fight,
Really?
and then you would decide what you want to fight with, and you would go ahead. It's very that's why we call it arcade because I remember playing those games on the arcade. You know, kind of deciding if to go the main story route or do the only fighting option. So there's sort of like some of the wrestling or racing game, which has the main game, and then choose a race, and you choose the arena, and you race there, and then you back in the main menu. As I said, so a quick experience if you like just something fun on the side.
I guess I started playing games much later in life compared to a lot of my peers. So I'm not really familiar with games like that had this mix of there's like a story mode and then there's this like side racing or wrestling or beat 'em up mini games. Like did you have a
Yeah.
specific favorite one that you were playing a lot as a kid that had this feature?
So there's a lot of games I played as a kid that I really struggle to find them anymore. All
Hmm.
of them arcade. I really play like Final Fight is one of the main ones, and there was a Punisher game as well, also a beat 'em up. There was quite a few of these beat 'em ups. Cadillac and Dinosaurs, I think it was named as well. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Dinosaurs
Um,
what?
I don't remember if it's Cadillacs or Dinosaurs. Nice. Yeah,
Cadillacs and
that's
dinosaurs. Wow.
yes. So you would fight people, and then you would hop on your car and try to avoid things that are coming at you, like barrels and monsters and stuff.
So dinosaurs,
And you
that's
fight
where the
dinosaurs,
dinosaurs
you
come
fight
in.
men. Yeah, you fight all sorts of people, like uh, big muscly humans with blonde, spiky hair and uh, weird stuff. And it was a lot of fun, that era of just complete madness in character design and level design. And there's no real storyline in terms of anything. It's more like, oh, someone's been kidnapped. You need to, save them. Here's 4 characters you can choose. Go and fight.
Yeah, see that there's a lot of like the old tradition of games that you're actually following. That's also, I guess, kind of explaining to me why there is a brawling mechanic in the game to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, so that the brawling mechanic is actually something we had to come to terms with too, because the original Batman is a point and click. It wasn't supposed to have combat. We did thought of doing like a rock paper scissor combat to it, uh, something small just in those moments. But the point and click mechanic felt very antiquated. The style we were going for was also very bland, and the more it transformed to comic, the more we wanted that kind of silly beat 'em up kind of thing of you know you're punching in a way that makes them flying off, and use that comic to our advantage and have these moments because it is somewhat of a mafia game in the end.
Hmm.
So there is that need for some action, especially if But since we're giving it a choice and not forcing you into action, for the most part, we still wanted there to be this kind of, are you gonna be a gangster or are you gonna be something else? If you choose to be a gangster, you're gonna be a gangster. But if you choose to be something else, obviously you can find different ways. But I also wanted to make it difficult to not be a gangster. I don't want people to have the option just don't fight, figure out another way. But you need to find the right item, you need to find the right thing. Like there's a specific scene where there's two mafiosos kind of threatening a shop owner, and you go in there. So there's two ways to avoid a fight. One, you have a high reputation with the mafia, which is very, very hard to get at that point. Or you have a weapon in hand. And if you have a weapon in hand, they won't want to fight you. In that instance, it will decrease your reputation with the mafia for threatening them and making them run away. But if you go there with no high reputation and no weapon in hand, they will fight you.
So they will attack
So it's
you.
kind of, they will attack you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So sometimes the options you think is going to be the violent one is actually going to prevent a fight. But there's also the option of finding ways to get along with everyone in a way, or earning the respect of everyone, so they won't want to fight you immediately, let's say.
Yeah, sounds like maybe the most pacifist way you can go about things is by maybe like doing favors for everybody so everybody likes you.
You will need to engage in a lot of side content and exploration to get all the pacifist routes. Uh, we might look in a way to make it very easy for some people that really want the story and not fight. But if you want the authentic experience of finding exciting ways to avoid it, then you need to engage in the entire world, basically, and not just rush to the next objective and try to skip through the game chapters, because that would just result in fights because you won't be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like if you really want to be a pacifist, you actually have to really commit to kind of being empathetic, kind of, and like listening
Yeah,
to everybody, exploring everything. So,
yeah,
yeah, I see what you mean, that you actually are making it hard to be like that, and especially on the kind of on the in the context of who you're up against, that it's like mobsters and violent people and
yeah.
situations that are dangerous. So it's not going to be easy to
Yeah. I
solve
want you
those
to
without.
try to be empathetic even for people who are insulting you in the moment or
Yeah.
coming in ugly because they think you're the enemy. You know, uh, what if you find another way? What if you find a different side of them? Or some people are just somewhat bad, and you're gonna decide: am I gonna let it defeat me and just go for the violent route, or am I gonna be the bigger person just because they're, you know, a bit bad and a bit bit of a shit?
Yeah, and the question is if those people maybe deserve a beating in that situation. Like, it might be a very tough choice to make because maybe they actually kind of have it coming. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, some of them do.
I'm
And it's
sure.
a choice you're gonna have to make. I'm not gonna judge anyone for punching certain characters. There's a specific character that I'm thinking of that is gonna be very
Punchable?
cathartic to punch.
Oh,
Yes,
oh, you made characters that people are gonna love to hate, huh? That's a
yes,
good premise.
quite a few of them, and also some of them that you know you hate first and then you fall in love with, hopefully. So there'll be some that you love initially and then hate by the end. We'll see.
Wow, that's a crazy range. I don't know, like I'm just wondering how large the scope of this game is getting, you know?
Um, yeah, it's mostly gonna come down to writing, and hopefully I can deliver on all that. Um, I know on the love to hate I already did. Um, and there was a nice little TikTok short of someone playing the demo, encountering a character that has a history with Bruce and comes up with insults basically right away. But you feel like your character kind of deserved that from the past. So you're kind of left hanging of, what do I do now? How do I repair it? Do I repair it? you know, stuff like that. So the scope of the game is big. It's not tiny game, I would say, but 10 to 12 hours of proper gameplay. You can finish it earlier if you really just push through it, or you can take your time even longer if you want to explore every nook and cranny and collect all the cats and magazines and small trinkets for your house, stuff like that.
Mm,
Which I'm sure some people would want all the cats.
I mean, I can
Quite a few of
definitely
them.
be like subscribed to wanting all the cats, but do you collect them and bring them to your home? What do you do with the cats?
Yes. So they hang out in your house and you
Oh
can
yeah.
interact with them now. Uh, you're kind of protecting them from this cat catcher guy. And if you collect all of them, you get a boss fight. With,
Wait, there's a cat catcher who's trying to capture the cats, but can they capture him
yeah.
from the house or just if they're on the street?
No, just if they're on the street. So
Okay.
you need to collect all of them and then you get to fight. It's kind of a special
I mean, I
unlockable
think I
boss.
would punch the cat catcher. Yeah.
That's one of the people you would like to fight. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of fights that are kind of hidden away, so they're not really. We don't want it impacting the main kind of mental health or reputation thing. It's more of a side thing, and people at that point would really want to punch this person. Um, and there's a few of these kind of fights that are not. They're not evil fights. You kind of want to engage in, and you kind of need to walk to find them.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they don't distract from the pacifist route because it is righteous and all that. Uh, but we'll see if people really want a solution to that that's not violent, we can see about that too.
Guess it's a good question of how you design like side quests that are not supposed to really affect your, what do you call it, alignment too much.
Yeah,
Hmm. To keep them from the cat catcher, you have to become the cat catcher.
exactly. The cat collector
The
would
cat
say.
collector, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's much
like
better. It's much better. It's a
it's
noble,
like when you collect art and hide it from the authorities.
right? Yeah. Contraband cats. Is there also
Yeah,
contraband alcohol you can collect in this way since it's the prohibition?
we'll have like special bottles and stuff that you can find just for collections, and there's storylines regarding alcohol smuggling. That was a big part of the region at the time. So it is imbued into the narrative already, and there will be some collectibles as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can like special bottles that are something that's 200 years old that you find or stuff like that.
Wow, Jesus. They kept that bottle around for so long. They were very, like, restrained, not opening
And
it.
it's basically vinegar at that point, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody should open it. I don't know where the cutoff point is where alcohol becomes something you just don't want to open anymore because it's noxious if you do. There's probably a certain time. I'm also thinking if there
Yeah.
should be an arcade mode that is just about cats. Sorry, I don't want to feature creep on you, but like, what if you get
we'll do the cat. We'll do the cat DLC
the
where
cat
you just
DLC?
you are a cat with the clothes of Bruce, and you do play the entire game as a cat, and you collect people for your house
Yeah,
instead.
collect people who will feed you. That's definitely a thing. I was also thinking like if in the brawl mode, you're a cat fighting other cats, or you're getting attacked by a wave of hungry cats, but you're not supposed to fight them. You're supposed to pet them. Anyway, no, this is turning the game into something totally different. We're not gonna do that. But one
Will
can
be one of the
dream.
nightmares.
One of the nightmares where Bruce just dreams that he's just like drowning in cats and he's suffocating because he's gone too far with the collection.
Yeah.
Well, great. But yeah, so let's go back to like the plans and everything. What's next for Button Man? When do we get I remember you saying there's a demo update coming?
Yes, so the demo update is in the works now. It will, for the most part, it's a kind of a tech upgrade to make everything better on the tech side, but also include parts of Act 1, which is our next chapter after the prologue. So once you finish with the prologue, you will be transported into uh, the open world, and there'll be two quests to do right now that are the main quests, but you'll be able to explore the entire town and see it. Uh, it's more just to showcase the entire thing where we start to populate the world with quests and stuff like that. We have a lot in the backlog that kind of in the works. But yeah, so that will be the demo, and hopefully we'll be releasing in the next 2 weeks. And beyond that, we want to also update as we improve the game. The demo is kind of the main game in terms of how we update it. So that will be just us developing and pushing it to others. Um, and we want to release around August this year, around Gamescom, hopefully,
The
kind
full
of as a
game.
big send off, the full game. Yes.
Oh my god, that's crazy. I wasn't aware that you were that close to actually finishing the whole big thing.
So we have a lot of things already done. We just need to put in the actual quests and the actual, uh, dialogues, which is, I won't say it's simple, but it's not as intensive as trying to draw the entire world
Hmm.
and the animations and all that. So it's almost done. That's something we're gonna do next few months, and from there the game will basically be done on the gameplay part. We'll have a few more assets to add, like the cutscenes and some music as well. But yeah, our hope is August to release the game, and then work on improving bugs and adding things that we want to add that didn't have the time to.
Hmm.
And yeah, but that's the plan right now.
Nice. Does the demo update that's coming in the next few weeks, is that actually going to make the collision detection in the fights more like accurate? Because that's something that I've kind of felt was a little tricky, and I've also seen some reviewers being like
Yeah.
complaining about that.
Yeah, the fights themselves have been improved
Nice.
by a lot. For quite a while now, we just couldn't push it because of bugs and issues with the game.
Hmm.
But yeah, we improved the quality of the fights, and the some fights are still unavoidable right now, just because it is the demo. But we already have in the background the ability to choose the different things, and we're gonna update that too after this big tech update to make things a bit closer to the final game, where you can avoid, I would say, the grand majority of them, aside from like the special fights. So that will be an update too, to kind of improve on the choices. The main fight already can be avoided, and we're also going to limit a bit the scope of the prologue. So before we had another place you can go to and kind of overexpand it a little bit, and that will be more in Act 1, where you can start to go to the docks and see the different places. So we're kind of making things better for us to not have the prologue bloated like before.
Mm. I see. I actually wasn't aware that with the area where you start is kind of just the prologue. I thought you were already kind of basically kind of act one, but now I'm realizing, yeah, it makes sense
Yeah.
that because there's only a limited area you can actually walk around. So in the full
Yes.
game, you also have the docks. What else do you have?
So we have the docks, we have the industrial zone, we have several streets with shops and places you can go to. We have the downtown area, which is a big like roundabout with a lot of buildings around it. There's a lot of inaccessible right now, but we are populating that as well. There's a nice kind of walkable woods area. There's there's the slums where a lot of people live, uh, especially since there was an explosion in Halifax a few years prior that displaced a lot of people.
Mhm.
There's the area that still is not repelled from the explosion, but that's not accessible until later in the game. There's this entire city to walk around. Most of the streets are done. There's quite a few of them, uh, and there's not gonna be a ton to do in the demo update, but we'll be able to see them at least to explore and see how this city connects and kind of see the different routes you can take. There's also a tram you can use to fast travel to specific locations,
Holy
uh,
shit, yeah.
and you'll need
That's so
so
cool.
that way you can jump from one point to the other
Hmm.
if you have a specific route in mind, or you can just try to find your ways through the streets as well. So we wanted to make the city walkable and basically feel like a real city where you can learn where things are and kind of hear, you know, go to this shop and you already been past this shop a few times, so you know where it is. Uh, like you will live in the city and already are familiar with the shops and who's who and where places are. And every chapter will have people kind of moving around as well, so you'll find them in different spots, be able to have different conversation with them. So each chapter will have a kind of unique feeling to it,
So
depending on the stuff that's happening
it's
as well.
almost like also a Sim City type of thing in there, or like the Sims itself, because like do the where the places the characters go to, are they kind of like simulated in a way, or are they
And
pre-scripted?
no, they're kind of chapter dependent, so each
Hmm.
chapter will have them in specific locations. Uh, so that they won't be moving around. Unfortunately, we don't have
Yeah, that would have
the
that
ability to implement that.
would have
I
been
wish.
absolutely in disbelief if you had said that that's what you did. But yeah, it's
I
already
need a few
cool that
millions to
there's.
make that, but
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
But we wanted to simulate that with storyline. So basically, like in the beginning, after the boss dies, people are in specific locations, and we'll talk about that. Later, when the big mafia boss arrives, and things happen with the police, for example, so people will be displaced in a way. Like if someone was arrested, they're not going to be in the usual place that you've known them to be before. And if someone is hiding, they'll be in a different place or gone from the map, depending on your choices. So things will change in the world map. Uh, it will be choice dependent, also story dependent. So you'll find them in different spots. They'll have different things to say, and those interactions will also have the decisions that will improve your mood, improve reputation, decrease reputation, depending on your choices, and also unlock different side quests as well.
Yeah, that's really cool and exciting. Just want to see the first of all like the range of the full city. That's already really cool that people in the demo are going to kind of be able to get an idea of the places you can go, because it sounds so much more
Yeah,
vast than just what's in the prologue right now.
yeah. The prologue is going to be one street. Uh, we added another for a bit, but we're gonna keep that for the past the prologue stage. But yeah, there's a lot to explore, and all of it is based on Halifax with some important landmarks as well included. So if you come here to Halifax, you will see the same locations in a different arrangement, but the same locations overall.
I think it was confusing a little bit for me at first because I thought that the game basically kind of was very much just kind of Halifax but at the time, but as I understood later it's more kind of like a fictional city that has some of these famous
So,
landmarks like the cemetery with this monument that's in the prologue.
so it is technically Halifax, just a fictionalized version of it. Let's say the history is the same, but there's no real names of locations of people. So we're not using someone real to tell the story, but we're fictionalizing the city, calling it Kingsport, and based on the Anne of the Green Gables books that called Halifax Kingsport in those two, which is I don't know if you know the books, but
No.
from the 1800s from Canada. Is a famous books here and somewhat around the world as well. But it's about this girl Anne that kind of lives through her life. And in one of the books, she's going to Kingsport to study at university, and that university is here in in Halifax, but she calls it Kingsport and changes the name, and all the names are different, and based on her own fictional world that she created. That's all very real. Like the history of everything is real. And like she also has the cemetery there, but she doesn't call the street the same name. She doesn't call the cemetery the same thing. So we took that approach of taking Halifax as it is. The explosion is the same, happened the same way. The displacement of indigenous people happened the same way. Stuff is a place called Africville, which is where Black African Canadian basically lived in for a long time, and were displaced in the 60s. But obviously, in the time frame of the game, that place still exists. So a lot of the history is the same. We just change the names and tell the original story, but it's still very much Halifax. So most of the places are the same. We just shuffle the streets. So things aren't the way they're supposed to be, but you will recognize them immediately as Halifax, down to the random houses that are not even real places, just look like the houses you pass as you walk around here.
Yeah, I mean, when I was playing part of the prologue, somebody in chat who actually is from Canada said, "Oh yeah, I can recognize that cemetery. I know where that is." But of course, you only know that
But there's
because
but
it's
there's
so
no
in the front.
restaurant that look like that there. And the starting location, for example, the pub you can go into, it's further along on the left side of the cemetery rather than the right side. And there's two churches next to the cemetery that are in a different place in the game. So yeah, it is Halifax, just a bit shuffled with
But
an
the
original
restaurant
story.
still exists too, like to this day.
So the pub does. The restaurant where your boss dies doesn't. Some locations are not based on real locations, but they're based on the spirit of locations, basically. Kind of implementing the style of different places and combining them to create new, as you said, the houses that you pass, some of the locations. Just they're not real, but they feel like they would fit in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But yeah,
that
the pub is
explains
real.
that's why it's kind of fictionalized, because that gives you the freedom to also add these kind of non-existent but directly inspired locations to what
Yeah.
used to exist there.
And I also didn't want to step on any toes by telling someone else's story. I'm an immigrant too. I'm not based here with some history in Halifax. So the hope is to tell the story of Halifax, show it to the world, but not start to step on anyone's toes and say, this is what your ancestor did, and they were involved in the mafia. So we're kind of skirting around and making a fictionalized stuff. So all the people are not real people, but there's allusions to real people, to the actions of them. Like during the explosion, there was a brave person that warned everyone about the explosion happening and saved a lot of people. So that still exists in the game world. It will allude to real people and acts of heroics and also bad parts of history. But it's not this specific person did this, and then we discover that no, he also did this awful thing or they did great thing, and now we said something bad about him, and in legal trouble because of it. So we're kind of skirting around a little bit. Basically, like a Spider-Man in New York situation. New York is real, but obviously none of the characters are real.
But there is, you're saying, an allusion to this historical person who did warn people and about the explosion that was going to happen. So is there an actual character that is in the game that is supposed to have been kind of that person, or is it some character
So that
talking
person
about?
died, unfortunately, but
Oh.
It will mostly be a historical thing of them talking about stuff that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that are happening in current, like I mentioned, like Africville, which was displaced in the 60s. Uh, you might not meet specific people that existed at the time, but you will learn the history of the place and kind of get allusions to what's gonna happen. With different characters that are fictional, that might be more on the racist side and wanting to displace the people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of complexities. Well, we can read the history until tomorrow, for years, and try to discern exactly who was on what side. We're always going to get something wrong. If we do a strictly historical based game where we show real people, and we want to tell that story, that history, the real history, in a fictionalized way, so you can see the sides without the actual specific people that you know can get us in trouble. Let's say.
No, I understand. At first, I was wondering, like, why is it so, um, let's say, like, veiled who those people were? But I understand now. There's, yeah, the people um that had them as ancestors and maybe don't want their family mentioned or stuff like this. That totally
Yeah.
makes sense. Also, the legal issues that could arise from that. Um,
There's also the case of a lot of this kind of stuff that happened is kind of in this. It was a legal battleground rather than a strict go away because we don't like you, right? It was more like, oh, this area is underdeveloped. We need to develop it. We need to help these people relocate and stuff like that. Well, if you look at the actual way people talk, there's obvious racial undertones to everything, but it's not confederacy versus the union like in the United States. There's a lot of a bit more subtleties to it, and we were gonna explore that, but also claiming one person is responsible for something is kind of jumping the gun. There's a lot of people and a lot of different processes that went into that,
mhm.
and for us to explore that, it requires an educational device that we're opening to explore. We've been exploring with the actual people from Africville and with the Mi'kmaq, which are the indigenous people of Nova Scotia. But that's not for a fun game, you know. That's about you know figuring out who killed your boss and sometimes punching people. Uh, we don't want to take it as an educational game now. Well, you get so many options on how you deal with people. So we're gonna keep that part to a more educational, more specific thing. Like we have a guidebook we're kind of working on in the style of Batman, which will be like a guidebook to the city, to all the landmarks and the history. That's where we can actually discuss the actual history of things rather than
Oh,
in the video game style.
but will this be a printed or like a downloadable like supporter pack
Both.
thing? Yeah.
It's gonna be printed here, and we hope it will be printed here. And there will also be an app, so you can see the stuff. And we're gonna have different things appear as well, and we're gonna work with local businesses to advertise their business as well in the guide in kind of a diegetic way. Maybe have some coupons in it as well.
Oh my
We'll see.
God.
But so that's where we're gonna explore the history and tell the people that are coming to Halifax the story and where to go, kind of
Hmm.
guide them in. Uh, so we kind of separate that part and the game, which is fictional story based on real events, but not strictly real events. And then we want to explore the real story with the art style as well.
It sounds like that would be something that the city of Halifax should be very interested in because it's kind of like
We sure hope.
an ad for the city as a whole.
Yeah, in a way, it is. Uh, my hope is to build this brand that is Nova Scotian, you know. So this is, when people think of Batman, they think of Nova Scotia. Um, Sort of like the end of the Green Gables, you think of Prince Edward Island. That's where the story takes place. And it kind of become a unique staple of that. If you go to Charlottetown, which is the main city there, you'll find shops that have the aesthetics of Anne, the character. This hat with the red hair, pigtails coming out. Uh, so there's a lot of that aesthetic all around there, and comic books and movies that come out of that. So that's why I see Batman kind of setting there. It's kind of like a Nova Scotian brand that's about Halifax and the surrounding, and hopefully will take flight after it releases.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I mean, it's cool that you're kind of like doing like looking at the place you're located in to actually focus on its history and kind of bring people's awareness to that, um
Yeah,
rather than, I don't know, I think there's a lot to do there, and it's, I guess I would say it's quite a lot of work to do. um
oh yeah,
but I feel like you have so much more material to work with than if you're trying to just like kind of build a completely fictive universe. Sometimes
it
it might feel a
it
bit
does
too
help.
dry. Yeah, exactly. um
Yeah,
I think we have to end here because I also have to get going. Though I would have liked to ask you a lot more questions, but I guess we'll have to settle for this much for now. Um,
we can do a part two another time.
yeah, that perhaps we can, like at release or something, like or like to see if the release delivers what you hoped for the game. It was very interesting. I think people in chat too, like I saw that people
Yeah.
recognize the books and stuff. So
Oh yeah.
I've not read it,
Thank
but
you.
now
Stick like
I'm
moves.
I'm feeling like I probably should look into at least like reading about the book, if not reading the whole thing. Um,
Yeah, it's an experience. It's my wife's favorite book as a kid, so I took up reading it as well. And
oh,
there's a lot to love uh, in it. It's very Canadian though, so you'll you'll learn a lot about that.
yeah,
And
I see. Well, thank you so
and yeah,
much for the chat. And
thank you so much for having me.
yeah, it was my pleasure. Then I will say bye for now and take care.